Tonight's debate is set against the toughest of backdrops. Since the UK last went to the polls, we've had a pandemic, Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and a cost-of-living crisis which is still hitting families hard. Huge geopolitical threats loom large, not least, of course, climate change. We all know how tough it's been. We don't need the politicians to remind us.
Going live.
So what are these two men going to offer us? Who are they, and why should they earn our vote?
Man.
Can they level with us when we know that finances are almost impossibly tight? Later tonight, you'll be able to see what other parties are offering when they're interviewed live on ITV1 by Anushka Astana. And the conversation will continue on the national and regional news. But now, let's get on with tonight's debate. Keir Starmer, your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. This election is all about a choice. More of the chaos and division we've seen for the last 14 years, or turning the page and rebuilding with Labour. I have ambition for our country.
I'm sorry, guys, I can't show video of this for some reason. You're just going to be audio only. So, yeah, if you want to watch the video, go on No Justice's stream. I don't know how she's got video and I don't, but maybe it's YouTube or maybe it's ITV. But, yeah, apologies for that.
And of working people. Now, I'm seeking your backing to change our country, to make it work once again for you and your family.
Let me know if there's any audio problems or anything like that.
Thank you. Rishi Sunak.
Uncertain times call for a clear plan and bold action. So I'll keep this simple. In 5 weeks, either Keir Starmer or I will be Prime Minister. Beyond raising your taxes and raiding your pensions, no one knows what Labour would actually do. But you know what I would do.
Well, that's literally what you did. You raided people's taxes. You raised taxes and raided pensions.
A plan for a more secure future for you and
this is literally what you did, bro.
Your family.
Thank you, Rishi Sunak. Well, we invited viewers from right across the country to submit questions. We have independently selected the questioners here with us this evening. I'll also raise some points made by people who couldn't be here. The two leaders don't know what they'll be asked. Also here, people who'll listen to tonight's debate. Some have voted Conservative and Labour in the past and think they will do so on July the 4th. And some have voted for other parties or are undecided. You can join the debate wherever you are by using the hashtag ITVDebate. And just before we go to our first question, a reminder that each leader will have 45 seconds to respond initially. Now, our first question on the cost of living, Paula from Huddersfield.
Let's see if Starmer can actually answer the questions. That'd be fun.
Paula.
Good evening, both. I have worked since I was 15 years old, and at the moment I hold a full-time, stable job. My children have left home. In the last few years, I found it very difficult to make ends meet, and the money simply doesn't go far enough. All I do is work to live. My food bill is nearly doubled. I'm in arrears with my bills. I spend my weekends batch cooking, so I don't have to turn on my oven in peak times. My savings are gone and I'm genuinely worried about my future. I don't think you actually understand how this is for people like me. So what can you do about that?
That's a great question, because this is going to be the situation for a lot of people, or at least a decent amount of people. You know, the fact that she's done pretty much everything she can do to save money, and it's just not happening. She's not being able to. This is a good question.
Furlough scheme during the pandemic, and more recently my clear plan to bring
I can't keep pausing it, I guess.
Inflation back to normal. And now our economy is growing again, wages are rising, and crucially, we are able to now start cutting your taxes. But I know you're only just starting to see the benefits of that,
Green
as you
shoots,
described.
guys.
So the choice at this election is with my clear plan and bold action to keep cutting your taxes, to give you financial security, or put all that progress at risk with higher taxes, £2,000 worth of higher taxes under the Labour Party.
He's gambling. He's gambling that people are feeling the benefit.
Paula, I'm really sorry to hear the position that you're in. It must be really, really difficult on a daily basis. And there'll be millions of people watching this who feel in a similar position to you, that the cost of living crisis is really bearing down on them with constant worry. I'm not going to pretend that Ukraine and COVID hasn't made things worse, but this government has lost control. Liz Truss crashed the economy. They made it worse here than in other countries, and it's people like you that are paying the price, because if a government loses control of the economy, as they have, it's working people that pay the price. And Liz Truss's advisors are in the House of Lords. She's going to be a candidate at the next election. Rishi Sunak is putting her forward. We've got to stop this chaos, got to stop the division, turn a page and start to rebuild under Labour.
Thank you for those opening statements.
Didn't give any
45
policy solutions
each. Just to turn to you first, Keir Starmer.
I'll lower the volume when I speak, so I can't really pause it. He didn't really offer any policies there. It was a good comment, but nothing there, no substance.
Well, he says the plan is working. He says the plan is working. So the question for him is, why has he called the election now? Because if he thinks things are going to get better towards the second half of this year, why has he called it now? He's called it now because he knows, and I'll ask him this, he knows inflation is going to go back up. He knows energy prices are going to go back up in the autumn. That's what he's not telling you. So he says the plan is working, but I don't think he believes the plan is working, because if he thought the plan is working, he wouldn't have called this election right now.
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, worded it a bit long, but yeah, he's right.
It's slightly ironic, because from the moment I got this job, Keir Starmer was telling me, call an election, call an election. And now that we've called an election, he's saying, oh, no, don't have an election, because I don't want to tell you what I'm going to do. And this is the choice. This is the choice for everybody.
It's a good rebuttal.
The plan is working. Of course I know everyone is only just starting to feel the benefits of it, but inflation is back to normal, wages are growing, taxes are now being cut. Keir Starmer would put all that progress at risk. He would put up everyone's taxes by £2,000. £2,000 in higher taxes for every working family.
Where's he got this £2,000 figure from?
In our country, after all
my sources that I made it the fuck up.
That's not the right course of action. I don't know why you want to put up people's taxes.
Keir Starmer.
Paul, I just don't know how you feel when you hear a Prime Minister say, having heard what you're going through, that the plan is working, it's all right. I meet so many people who are struggling with their bills, and the Prime Minister just keeps saying he lives in a different world, that
Could you, but Keir Starmer, if people are struggling with their bills, why do you want to make it harder for them by saddling them with £2,000 worth of higher taxes? How is that going to make Paula or anyone's life easier?
Could you respond directly to Rishi Sunak?
This is the Prime Minister who's been part of a government that has put up taxes.
Where's the £2,000 figure from?
Times. The last manifesto that they had in 2019 said we won't put up national insurance. This man then put up national insurance. He's the British expert on tax rises. They're at the highest level for 70 years. And he's got the gall to say other people are going to...
I know you're going to hear a lot about the past in this election, but this election...
It literally happened the other day. It's like a few years ago.
As we now are. You want to put everyone's taxes up by £2,000. And this is really important. Independent Treasury officials have costed Labour's policies, and they amount to a £2,000 tax rise for every working family. No, this is important. Mark my words. Labour will raise your taxes. It's in their DNA. Your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. OK,
you name it,
sorry, I'm going to...
The host needs to do...
I'm just going to draw breath there a moment, please, gentlemen. We're going to be talking about tax again
Being a host
later on.
I
just want to bring this part of the debate back very firmly to Paula's question. She made it very clear how hard her life is at the moment. You did acknowledge it, both of you. She spends her weekends batch cooking so she doesn't have to turn her oven on during peak times. There is worry here right before our eyes that were being echoed across the country. One of the key points that Paula says is this: says, I don't think you understand how hard it is for people like me. What are you going to do about it? How do you actually connect with Paula? Rishi Sunak.
Well, I'd ask everyone to judge me by my actions.
Furlough.
You saw what I did during the pandemic.
Yep.
When disaster struck our country.
Stop talking about the past. Also talks about the past.
Scheme because I knew the impact, devastating impact it would have on people. And you know what? Every week when I'm out and about, someone comes up to me and tells me how furlough saved their family, saved their home, because that's who I am. And I don't want to put that progress at risk. I want to keep delivering financial security by cutting people's taxes.
Thank you.
Whereas the Labour Party want to keep putting people's taxes up, and that's not going to help anyone overcome the challenges they're facing.
Paula wants to know what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, well, I think...
wasted 45 seconds there.
How does he connect? And Paula, what I would say is this. My dad worked in a factory. He was a toolmaker. My mum was...
Oh, here we go.
We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up.
Dad was a toolmaker, Mum was a nurse.
On occasion where we couldn't pay our bills. So I know how that feels. In our particular case, we had our phone cut off because we didn't have the money. So I do know the anguish of worrying when the postman comes with a bill. What is that bill going to be? Can I pay for it?
Are you saying
I don't think the Prime Minister quite understands the position that you and other people are in. I do want to, if I may, just answer that.
Please let Rishi Sunak respond to that, please.
Because this election is about the future and making people's lives better. Now, I've got a clear plan to ease those anxieties that Paula and everyone is facing, because things are tough. I want to make them easier by continuing to cut your taxes. The difference at this election is Keir Starmer is going to put your taxes up by £2,000.
Thank you.
So if people are worried about their electricity bill, their food bill...
OK, thank you very much. I am going to stop.
£2,000 worth of tax rises are not going to help with any of those things.
Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, I am going to draw a line under this part of the debate. We're going to be talking about tax again later on.
Neither of them answered the actual question about what they're going to do about this person's struggles. None of them answered the question.
We're now going to go to the issue of health and social care, which, like some other issues that may come up in tonight's debate...
That was, honestly, guys, that was really bad. They didn't answer the question at all.
...directly in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and the UK government sets policy for England. So our next question is about the health service, and it's from Janet from Telford. Janet.
Thank you. I've interacted more with the NHS lately than the average person. I'm a cancer survivor. My son is a nurse. I recently lost a cousin who was waiting for surgery. No one is brave enough to tell us the truth. The NHS is broken. Be honest with us. How long will it take to fix it?
The NHS is broken, and we're looking at one of the people who broke it in Rishi Sunak.
Janet, I'm really sorry to hear about your own position and that of your relatives. My wife works in the NHS in one of the big London hospitals. My mum was a nurse, my sister was a nurse.
His wife is a lawyer, I believe. His wife is a lawyer. So, you know, the idea that his wife works in there, sure, as a lawyer, she wouldn't know about the struggles of the wards.
It's unforgivable what's happened to the NHS. And to come into power for 14 years and leave the NHS in a worse state than when you found it is unforgivable in politics. And Rishi Sunak stood 18 months ago, Janet, and said that those waiting lists, which are now nearly 8 million, he said he'll get them down. He made a promise. He said he'd be held accountable. They were 7.2 million at the time. Now they're 7.5 million. So they've gone up, and that bears down on the NHS.
Rishi Sunak.
It's a good answer.
Well, Janet,
but
thank you
she didn't
for
answer the question,
sharing your story, and I'm glad that you've recovered. And I'm sorry for your loss as well. Now, my dad was a GP. My mum was a pharmacist, so I'm speaking as someone...
Oh, he's doing a reverse Sunak. Starmer even.
In the NHS, surrounded by people who dedicated their lives to it. And the evenings in my house, growing up, my parents spoke about how they could provide more care for their patients, like you. And that's how I think about the NHS. And of course it's difficult, and you're right, and we have to be honest about the damage that COVID has done and the time it will take to recover.
And the Conservative Party
But we've put record funding in, we're training more doctors and nurses, we're doing more checks and scans, and what I want you to know is that the NHS is safe in my hands. I will always stand up for it to give you and everyone else the peace of mind that it will be there for you and your families when you need it.
Thank you very much. Janet put this question. Keir Starmer agreed with the part of that question that the NHS is broken. Your response to that, Rishi Sunak?
Well, as Janet knows and everyone knows, the NHS is still recovering from COVID. We went through the best part of 2 years where the NHS couldn't conduct all the treatments it normally would, and it is going to take time to recover from that. But we are now making progress. The waiting lists are coming down. But what Keir Starmer didn't mention to you, which you did, Julie...
Waiting list 7.2 million, they're now 7.5 million. He says they're coming down, and this is the guy who says he's good at maths.
Yeah, they are now coming down. They are now coming down.
Oh, he's cooked him. He's cooked him there.
Them down. 7.2 million, they're now 7.5 million. I'd like you to explain how they're coming down.
Because they were coming down from where they were when they were higher, and they're now on their way down.
He's getting cooked. He's getting absolutely
because the NHS
cooked
was impacted by industrial action. And if it wasn't for that,
somebody else
he's getting cooked.
No, but let me address the question, because, as you said, Julie, the NHS has devolved. So different parties are responsible for the NHS in different parts of the United Kingdom.
This is not a good look.
Keir Starmer's party are responsible for it in Wales. Now, the NHS has been impacted by COVID everywhere. But things are difficult in England, I know that. But if you were in Wales, you would be waiting 40% longer for treatment. Ambulance and A&E times are the worst in Great Britain.
Thank you.
And 1 in 4 people are on a waiting list. So, yes, the NHS has challenges, but it has challenges everywhere, regardless of the party that's in charge.
I'm looking at Janet's response when all the Prime Minister can say to her is that what the position is in Wales. Janet, I don't know. You may not be interested in the position in Wales. You may be interested in the position that you're facing and want a Prime Minister who takes responsibility for what he is responsible for. But what you'll get with the Prime Minister is somebody who makes a promise saying, I will be held personally responsible for bringing those waiting lists down. Yeah. At the moment they don't come down, what does he do? He blames everybody else.
Keir Starmer...
What did personal responsibility actually mean?
Very clear.
Sorry, can I just intervene there and ask very specifically then, Keir Starmer, what would you do about the doctors' strikes that Rishi Sunak raised? Can you answer that very directly to Rishi Sunak?
We've got to resolve them, and for months and months and months, the Prime Minister hasn't resolved them. They've been arguing about who gets in the room. You've got to get in the room, you've got to resolve it because the NHS needs to get back to work. But we've also got to bring down the waiting list. We've got a plan for 40,000 extra appointments each and every week. That's 2 million a year to bring those waiting lists down.
Can you guys hear this okay?
And under the last Labour
Is the audio coming through?
The record was waiting lists right down, satisfaction in the NHS at a record high. That's completely been turned on its head.
OK, Rishi Sunak.
I'm really grateful for everyone in the NHS for working so hard, and we have now settled pay rises with everyone in the NHS except for the junior doctors. And of course I want to do that, to make sure it's fair and affordable though. But despite being offered the most generous pay settlement anywhere in the NHS, and indeed the public sector, the union are demanding a 35% pay rise, and I don't want to raise your taxes to pay for that, because I don't think it's right. But I will say this.
Oh, damn, the audience are applauding it. Him kicking healthcare workers, he's applauding it.
He'll resolve it. He hasn't explained to you how, but I will say
perhaps
this.
You could answer that, Keir Starmer.
Well, we wouldn't pay the 35%. We've already said that to the doctors. We can't afford it because the government's already broken the economy. And there are many things that now can't be afforded. So we're not going to pay that. But what you can't do is what the Prime Minister has done, which is to say...
Well, you just said you'd resolve it, so what would you do?
At the end of the day...
You're not going to give them the 35% pay rise that they're asking for, so how would you resolve it? Just standing there and saying, I'll resolve it, isn't an answer. That's not a plan.
Prime Minister...
How would you resolve it?
Prime Minister, your record is...
Well, no, how would you resolve it? You want to be Prime Minister. How would you resolve the strikes? How would you resolve them?
I wish he had as much to say when Liz Truss was crashing the economy.
Could you answer Rishi Sunak's point, please?
It's an OK joke.
I will when I can get a word in edgeways. His record is of saying, I'm not going to get in the room to negotiate. And what have we got?
No, we've been in the room to negotiate.
What have we got? Ongoing strikes.
Answer.
We have to end these strikes. The grown-up way to do that is to get in the room and to negotiate with the doctors and come to a settlement. There's only 2 ways forward. One is a continuing strike, which is what we've had for a very, very long time. We're now 4.5 weeks from election. He's going to kick it into the long grass. Right. Or you get grown up, you go in the room and you resolve this. That does not mean you agree with the 35% we can't afford.
Thank you.
But we have got to settle
thank you. I'm going to pause that there, please, because I want to return to another part of Janet's question that you did touch on, that she lost her cousin who was waiting for surgery. These waiting lists are a matter of life and death. A quick point of information to both of you. If you had loved ones on a long waiting list for surgery, would you, if you felt that that was the only way forward, use private healthcare? Rishi Sunak?
Yes.
Keir Starmer?
No.
Absolutely no if your loved one was on a waiting list for surgery?
No.
Thank you very much.
I don't use private health. I use the NHS. That's where my wife works, in one of the big hospitals. As I say, it runs through my DNA.
OK, thank you. We've had the answers to that.
But you want private healthcare to come into the NHS. That doesn't make sense as an answer.
Aspect of the debate on the NHS. Everyone knows that fixing the NHS depends on fixing social care. 5 years ago, Boris Johnson was standing where you both are now. He told me there was a plan ready to go on this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes the answer weird.
Will you both now commit to a
what I'll do is I'll go back through the chat after when it goes on break, because I can't pause it because it's annoying.
Yes, well, we've already implemented charging reform. Pilots are in place to implement the reforms. They will be rolled out later this year, next year.
It'll be fully funded in your manifesto.
We've already given social care an extra £8 billion because the pressures are immediate.
Thank you.
And the pilot reforms are there for charging.
OK, we heard that answer. Yes or no?
We will have a plan for social care, and like everything else in our manifesto, it'll be fully costed and fully funded. It starts with the workforce because, as you know, one of the biggest problems in social care is that the workforce is fragmented, poor conditions, and many people.
Thank you.
Well, you talk about the workforce. If I could just pick up on this workforce question, because it is important, because there's no way to get Janet and everyone else the care they need without a workforce.
OK.
But the British Medical Association has warned that Keir Starmer's pension tax risks an exodus of doctors, because we're talking about doctors from the NHS.
OK, we are going to... No, gentlemen, please.
It's all joined up.
Actually,
but it's all joined up, but this is an important point.
Thank you very much.
Sunak needs to be careful. He's really pissing off the host here. It's not a good look.
Shortly. I am going to say, yes, tax will run through a lot of what we're discussing this evening. We will return very specifically to it. And I just want to stay on the issue of public services and take a quick fire on education. OK, we've had Harry, a message from Harry, who's a teacher just starting out, and Deborah, who has been a primary school head for 40 years. They've both been in touch with us to tell us effectively the same thing, that they cannot believe how bad things are in their sector. They want to know what you can do for them. Rishi Sunak.
Yes, well, I think education is the most powerful way that you can transform people's lives. That was something that my parents raised me with, and I'm grateful to all our teachers for what they're doing, which is why we're backing our schools with record investment at the moment, but also reforming how we teach our kids, which is why I'm proud that
just get your comments in, guys. I'll get back to it.
Are the best readers anywhere in the Western world, and that is testament to the hard work of teachers and the reforms.
Apparently it's because they lowered the standards for it.
Well, there's a pattern here, isn't there? We've just been talking about the NHS, and Janet says it's broken. We've now gone to education, and the teachers say that's broken as well. And I know the Prime Minister has already said in the first however many minutes of the debate that he doesn't want to have anything to do with the last 14 years. I'm sorry, Prime Minister, you may want to just cast it off, but everybody else is living with it. When it comes to schools, we desperately need more teachers, because in secondary schools we do not have the teachers we need. So, for example, on key issues like maths, we have maths being taught, and parents watching this will know, by supply teachers, by PE teachers, but not maths teachers. So we would have in place, one of our first steps would be to recruit 6,500 teachers to fill those gaps, which will help the existing teachers who are struggling to cope with the mess that this government has left them in.
So tell Rishi Sunak why you're going to raise VAT on private schools to achieve the money that you say you will spend on those extra teachers. Why are you making that choice? Tell Rishi Sunak.
Because I believe every child should have the teachers they need in the core subjects like maths. And I think for a child in a state secondary school who doesn't have a core teacher in something like maths is going to live with that for the rest of their lives. It's not a one-year problem or a two-year problem. If they're in their GCSEs, it's for life. And therefore, we will have 6,500 recruits. We will get rid of the tax break.
Again, you know, this is not a lot of teachers for the country.
I understand that. It's a tough choice.
Rishi Sunak.
But I want to make sure that children in our secondary schools get the chances that they need.
You've explained the policy. Thank you, Rishi Sunak, if you'd like to respond directly to
I don't agree with it, because I think people who work hard and aspire to provide that education for their kids should have that freedom. That's what my parents did, and I'll support it. But you heard it. Keir Starmer is going to raise taxes. But that's just the start, because there's a long list of other things that he needs to find the money for. So it's not just going to start and stop there. There are £2,000 worth of tax rises coming for every working family in this country. And as I said, he's saying to you he's going to raise taxes.
I do need to
that's not the start, and that's not the end.
I do need to answer that, because he put that figure out there. Well, what's happened here is, it's a classic. They put in pretend Labour policies to the Treasury, and then they get a false readout. So I'll just tell you, what they've put in for this analysis is a mental health policy that isn't the Labour Party's policy. He's put in one of his own policies. He's asked the civil service to cost it, and they've come up with this figure of £2,000. They
are an independent civil service.
I think in terms...
Because you've asked them to do it.
Gentlemen, please, may I just say that people can have a lot of figures to get their heads around tonight. I'm not saying that people aren't more than capable of calculating that rapidly at home, but I do want to actually draw the focus.
That's poor from the host there. That's poor in my opinion.
Very
She lets Sunak get away with that.
The question of tax. I want to talk very specifically about tax before we finish this first half of our debate. Can we clarify the similarities in your positions? Please raise your hand if I am wrong. You, as Prime Minister, will not raise income tax. You will not raise national insurance in the next Parliament. And other than Labour on private schools, you will not raise VAT. Thank you for that instructive moment. We've had a lot of viewers getting in touch to ask, where is the money coming from to solve the huge challenges raised by Paula, Janet and many others? Are you two gentlemen being honest?
We will raise specific taxes, and we've been really clear what they are. We've already dealt with the tax break on private schools. We want to end the non-dom status completely. I think that the super rich should be paying their tax. I want to get rid of the equity loopholes that are there, again, for the super rich. And I think the oil and gas companies should be paying their fair share towards our energy. So we will raise those, but we won't raise the others.
Rishi Sunak.
Yes, well, we have already scrapped the non-dom regime and we have a 75% windfall tax
you've left
on energy companies, but independent Treasury civil servants have costed Labour's
Oh
policies
my God, here we go again.
You want the specifics, Julie. So let's have a specific difference.
Please let Mr Sunak finish.
The triple lock plus. So that we raise the personal allowance for pensioners.
She's letting him get away with it.
The state pension is never subject to tax. That's all you'll get under a future Conservative government. Keir Starmer hasn't matched that pledge, which means for the first time in our country's history, if Labour are elected, pensioners will pay tax. I do not think that is right, and you should explain to everyone why you think pensioners will be paying a retirement tax under your government.
Briefly, please,
What the Prime Minister's done so far in the 2 weeks of this campaign is to make desperate gimmicks and put them on the table. He's told us he's going to get rid, it's their policy to get rid of national insurance altogether. That's £46 billion. He said it's their policy to get rid of inheritance tax. That's £10 billion. He says he's going to get rid of tax on pensioners.
You're just talking nonsense. But just answer the specific.
Literally what you've said, though. This is what Sunak said.
Committed. I can tell you.
Thank you, not over each other. Thank you, not over each other.
No, but this is we've committed to the triple lock plus. Under us, the state pension will never pay tax. Under you, there's a retirement tax coming for British pensioners. I think it's appalling. Explain to people, why do you think pensioners should pay tax on the state pension?
OK.
The big problem with Liz Truss is that she made unfunded tax cuts.
All right.
The Prime Minister is doing the same thing. We're going to go round the circle again.
Everyone, because you asked, you asked about it. There's very clear, pensioners under Keir Starmer will pay tax on the state pension for the first time in our country's history.
All right, I'm going to just
It is a retirement tax, and Keir Starmer can talk about the past all he wants, but in the future, pensioners have got a tax rise coming under your government.
All right, gentlemen,
why
please.
do you want to do that to pensioners?
Gentlemen,
why do you want
please.
to put up their taxes?
We're just going to take a pause there. I just want to put this on the table. The Institute for Fiscal Studies
Sunak's getting away with murder here.
Has assessed that you are joining in a conspiracy of silence in not acknowledging the scale of the choices and trade-offs that will face us after the election. Unprotected budgets, that's budgets for areas outside of schools, the NHS and defence. They could face up to 4% of cuts a year. One word, can you rule those cuts out? Are you being level with us? One word with us, yes or no?
We're going to continue investing record sums in public services.
I ask yes or no?
No, we're not going to go back to austerity. I ran a public service for 5 years, the Crown Prosecution Service. I know how hard it is.
Thank you very much
when you don't have enough money. I believe in our public service.
Thank you, Keir Starmer. Thank you, Rishi Sunak. For the time being, we will take a breath. After the break, we'll be discussing immigration, climate, and we'll take a closer look at what sort of leader Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer would be. Don't go away.
Sorry, Julie, I'm going to have to go away for a second. We'll go off for a few minutes. Get your comments in now, and I'll go back through them. I'll go back through them, and let's have a look. Because I can't answer them, because I can't pause the stupid stream. Because it jumps. So I'll show you guys. Look, you can see purple head there. And then, it did jump a minute ago. We'll leave a bit longer, we'll see if it jumps. What's it called? So yeah, get your comments in, we'll go through them now, because I can't do it live. So I think Scottish NHS times are the best. I think in the United Kingdom they're doing pretty well up there. Yep, bad junior doctors, yep, that's what Sunak was saying. With the sound, we don't have to raise taxes on public sector pay rises, you chump. that some of that money goes back into the treasury anyways. It's kind of dumb. Starmer being too jokey. I think it's fine. I think he's gone away with that a little bit with the sums thing. I think that was good, but I think Sunak started landing some right hands kind of after that. I'd probably give that round to Sunak, to be honest with you. Never thought I would say this, but go Rishi. Someone was saying people dying each down a trolley. That is true, Chris Bennett. That is very true. And that's something the government have. That is created by this Conservative government. Rishi record disgraceful 8 million on national emergency. People die in back of ambulances. Yeah, you are lucky if you get one. You're absolutely right. Why should rich kids get subsidies to go private school? 100% correct. Load of rubbish, Sunak. I agree with you there. How are we supposed to educate our betters, Chris? Huh? Oh, that's a joke. If you want private school, you can afford VAT. Why should you get subsidies off me? My tax, no. Pay up, mate. True. Austerity, yeah. The idea that we're not going back to austerity is complete garbage. Good luck with the rest. Yeah, that's fine, mate. Don't worry about it. It's painful. Like Sunak's wife, who never paid. Yeah, she was a non-dom for many years whilst living here. Yeah, Sunak looks like he's winning away to me. Sunak's just gish galloping, hoping no one else can talk. Yeah, he's on offense. He's on offense there, which is where you want to be really in a debate. So that's big there. Might ask actually. I'm just gonna ask someone something quickly. So yeah, I think, let's see if I unpause it here. Does it jump? See what I mean? It jumps. It jumps to the live bit, so it's a bit annoying. Yeah, 100% he's gish galloping and he's jumping around to try and confuse people and things like that. But I think he's on offense. You know, this $2,000 figure. The fact the host didn't let Starmer address it, I think, is pretty bad. I'm hoping that he can address it because it sounds like Treasury Jiu-Jitsu, honestly. But I think she should have let him address it. She should have let him address it and gone from there, because it reminds me of the old Marco Rubio clip. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Marco Rubio. Reminds me of this.
With just 2 days until the New Hampshire
How fast I listen to stuff, sorry, gang.
primary,
7 years, the people of New Hampshire are smart. Do not make the same mistake again.
I think the experience is not just what you did, but how it worked out. Under Chris Christie's governorship of New Jersey, they've been downgraded 9 times in their credit rating. This country already has a debt problem. We don't need to add to it by electing someone who has experience at running up. And
debate's started again, guys. Let's cut back to this.
For both of our candidates here, please, an appeal from me not to speak over one another. We want to make sure that everybody can hear what you're saying. That was a gentle reminder.
It's like 2 school kids getting told off.
Until next time. We now turn to another important issue in this election, and that is immigration. On our next questioner.
Yeah, Max and NJ covering this. Yeah, it's pretty tough, but we move on it. Thanks for the super chat, Mithril.
Politicians have broken so many promises on immigration. Why should I trust either of you to do anything about such large numbers of people
you understand
across the channel to gain access to the UK illegally?
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Rishi Sunak.
Stephen, immigration is too high, and we will need to take bold action to bring it down, whether that's legal migration, where we're going to introduce a new legal cap to guarantee that it will come down every year, or the boats, which you mentioned, where we got the numbers down last year by a third, and now we have a deterrent ready to go. Migrants have been detained, the flights will go in July, but only if I'm your Prime Minister. If Keir Starmer's elected, all those people will be released, the flights will be cancelled, and we will have no deterrent to stop the unfairness of people crossing in boats. So that's the choice for you at this election. Stick to our plan, and illegal migrants will be on those planes. With Labour, they will be out on our streets.
Thank you very much, Rishi Sunak. Keir Starmer.
Well, Stephen, the levels of migration are at record highs. 685,000. It's never been that high, save in the last year or two. The Prime Minister says it's too high. Well, who's in charge Who's in charge? He's the most liberal Prime Minister we've ever had on immigration. We've never had numbers like this before. And he says that you can believe him on the boats. Nobody should be making that crossing across the Channel. 18 months ago, the Prime Minister made a promise. He said, just like the NHS promise, he was personally accountable for it, that he would stop the boats. This year alone, 10,000 people have crossed on boats. That's a record number. So, again, he's made a promise and he's completely failed to keep it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Rishi
Sunak,
Sunak, respond directly to Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Over the last 12 months, the number of crossings have down a third because the plans we've put in place are starting to make a difference. But the choice of this election is about the future. I believe you need to have a deterrent. The only way to stop this problem is to say to people who come here illegally, they cannot stay and they will be removed. If I'm your Prime Minister, the planes will go to Rwanda, we will have a deterrent. So the simple question for Keir Starmer is, what will you do with people who come here illegally? What will you do with them? Well, very simply, what would you do with them? That's what I'm going to do. We'll have a deterrent. What are you going to do?
We need to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade, making a huge amount of money, putting some of the most vulnerable people in boats across the Channel. They're making a fortune. Before I was a politician, Stephen, I was the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I worked with the police and prosecutors in other countries to bring down terrorist gangs who are running across borders. I do not believe it's impossible to bring down these gangs. What I won't do is engage in an expensive gimmick, the Rwanda scheme. If he believed it was going to work, he wouldn't have called an election before it can be tested. He wouldn't have done it.
So, Keir Starmer said, smash the gangs. We put new laws in Parliament that have now led to almost 1,000 criminals and people smugglers being arrested, serving hundreds of years in jail. Because we do need to smash the gangs. Keir Starmer voted against those laws. So, as ever, you say one thing here, but your track record says something completely different, and you can't be trusted to tackle immigration.
So why are the numbers this year 10,000 record numbers? Why is that?
Because this is a challenge. This is a growing challenge, but I've got a plan to deal with it because I'm going to put people on planes. What are you going to do with them? I can tell everyone what I'm going to do. You might not like it, but I've got a plan.
It's the Spider-Man meme. What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do? Just tell everybody. What are you going to do with illegal migrants who arrive?
Please, can we please, gentlemen, we will lower our voices. Keir Starmer, please respond directly to Rishi Sunak.
There's a pattern of behaviour here. He said he would get waiting lists down. They've gone up. He said he would stop the boats. We've got record numbers coming. The promises he makes are not worth the paper they're written on. His plan is failing. We do have to deal with this problem, Stephen. We absolutely have to deal with it. We have to smash the gangs that are doing. I will never accept that the only criminal gangs that can't be taken down are these vile gangs. I've taken down terrorist gangs in my past. I've seen how it's done. I know it can be done. We'll have a border security command if I'm Prime Minister, and we will get that done and stop this vile trade and those boats coming over with very vulnerable people.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to call a pause there. Thank you very much. A very specific question to you, if I may, Rishi Sunak, and that is on the European Convention on Human Rights. If your Rwanda plan is blocked by the courts, and will this appear in your manifesto, that you would remove the UK from the European Convention on Human Rights? Is that part of your plan? Will that be in your manifesto?
I'm crystal clear. I believe all our plans are compliant with our international obligations, but if I'm forced to choose between securing our borders and our country's security or a foreign court, I'm going to choose our country's security every single time.
Oh, the Gammons are applauding that one. Ugly.
I've been crystal clear. I will choose our country's security ahead of membership of a foreign court every single time.
Complete straw man.
Very clear answer. Keir Starmer, respond to that directly to...
Breaking the Good Friday Agreement.
No, if I'm Prime Minister, we will not pull out of international agreements and international law, which is respected the world over.
Oh, it's a bigger applause. Big up the audience. Big up the audience.
To be a respected player on the global stage, not a pariah who doesn't agree with international law. And those laws were put in place after the Second World War, after the horrors of the Second World War, when all governments, all countries came together and said, never again. And it was a Conservative government. Churchill's fingerprints are on this instrument. So important was it for the Conservative Party. This Conservative Party is 1,000,000 miles away from the Conservative Party of old.
I have a direct
Not
question
that far
to
away.
You, Keir
Not really.
Starmer. You sound quite similar. Just to confirm for both of you, on the issue of safe routes. Are safe routes for people crossing the Channel
That's a big question.
not the answer? Keir Starmer.
Well, I don't think anybody should be crossing the channel. In relation to some countries, I do agree with safe routes. So, for example, well, just give me the example, Afghanistan, where everybody will observe the terrible scenes when the Taliban took over, and people who'd risk their lives to interpret for our forces, etc. I thought they should be allowed to come here to safety, and I supported the safe routes for them to do so. There are circumstances where I do believe.
Do you support it now? Do you support the safe routes now?
Thank you. We just need to keep this brief. Yes or no to safe routes for those crossing the channel?
Of course we should have safe routes, but when we've controlled our borders, we will be able to have a conversation about the right number to accept. We've been a very generous, compassionate country. But we talk about European conventions. 20 European countries almost now have agreed with my approach. Believe that you need to be able to return people to a safe country, otherwise you can't solve this problem. We still haven't heard from Keir Starmer, and this is meant to be a debate about the future. I will put people on planes to create that deterrent. Multiple other European countries agree with that. What will you do with illegal migrants who come here? What will you do with them?
Well, would you consider processing asylum claims in a third country, Keir Starmer?
Yes, if that was possible to do it in compliance with international law, of course. But just let me deal with this.
So you do now agree?
So you...
now, you've just changed your
I thought we were not going to talk over each other.
So you do now agree with third country deals?
Thank you very much.
Can I just get a word in edgeways?
Mr Sunak, Mr Starmer.
At the moment, people are arriving by small boats and not having their claims processed. By the end of the year, that means there'll be 100,000 people in hotels at taxpayers' expense who are not having their claims processed. That means one thing: they cannot be returned. And that's why returns have gone down by 40% on his watch. Now, he'll say again, well, don't look at the last 14 years. I know that was terrible. Don't look at that. I'm just looking forward. But I'm sorry, we're all living with the consequence of your awful decision.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for that. We are trying to get as many topics in.
But again, none of them answering the question here, not really.
Draw a line under that.
I think Sunak more than Starmer. I think Sunak's answered the question more.
I'm sure you both understand that. Thank you. We're going to turn now to our fourth question from Omar from Manchester. Omar.
Thank you. I'm worried about the UK's lack of leadership on the world stage. I want our PM to be strong enough to take a stand even when it's hard. So what should happen next to stop these awful scenes we're seeing in Gaza?
That's a great question.
Thank you very much indeed for that question, Omar.
Well, applaud him louder,
that question there, it has a wide range to it, but very specifically, it is about the Hamas terrorist atrocities of October the 7th and then what unfolded after, the scenes of which we see on our television news every evening. So I'd like you both, please, to address that particular situation. A lot of people have been very uncomfortable with the stance that both of you have taken on this. How would you respond? First to Keir Starmer.
Well, Omar, the situation in Gaza is intolerable. It's catastrophic. Tens of thousands of people have been killed, a disproportionate number of women and children. So, Omar, what we need now is a ceasefire, a cessation of the hostilities straight away. And for these purposes, which is really important because it's a very grave situation, firstly, we have to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and I dread to think that the state they're in. Secondly, we desperately need humanitarian aid into Gaza, but desperately, it's catastrophic. Thirdly, and this is where the leadership piece comes in, we have to find a path to a lasting resolution. That has to be a two-state solution, and we need to show leadership on that. And I know that if we're elected into office, if we're humble enough to serve, that will be my solemn duty.
Rishi Sunak.
Yes, Omar, it's an awful situation, and I'm pleased, actually, that Keir Starmer supported, alongside me, Israel's right to defend itself in the face of the atrocious attack that they suffered. But right now, you're seeing that US have put a deal on the table, which we strongly support, together with our allies, to bring an immediate end to the hostilities, release hostages, get more aid in, and then build towards a lasting settlement with a two-state solution. We've led in providing more aid to Gaza, something I'm proud that we've done. Our troops have helped build the port that's being established. But more
that port's getting washed away,
the world is a more uncertain place. What Hamas doing is indicative of the dangers we face, which is why I've made the bold decision also to lead, to increase investment in our country's defence, because I think that's necessary to keep you safe, everyone safe. It's something that the Labour Party have not matched.
Thank you very much indeed for those serious considered
just a poor answer from both
to
of them,
the first
really.
part of Omer's question.
Especially
You
Sunak.
raised a question there very specifically at the end of that statement, Rishi Sunak, raising the question about our security or otherwise under the potential leadership of Keir Starmer. Do you really think the man standing next to you is a threat to our national security?
No, I don't think the Labour Party can be trusted to keep this country as safe as the Conservatives.
Jeremy Corbyn.
The world is a more dangerous and uncertain place than at any point since the end of the Cold War. I've made the decision to invest more in our defence, taking it up to 2.5% of GDP. Labour Party have not matched that. And worse than that, the person who would be Deputy Prime Minister under Keir Starmer does not believe in our nuclear deterrent, the ultimate guarantor of our security. So no, you can trust the Conservatives with our country's security, and my track record and our commitments prove that.
Literally got hacked by the MOD, but okay.
Before I was a politician, I was the Director of Public Prosecutions. I was working on national security. I was dealing with terrorist plots. One of them that we prosecuted was to take down 7 aeroplanes as they were halfway across the Atlantic. They were going to be blown up. That is one of the cases that I prosecuted, knowing how important it is to keep everybody in this country safe and sound. Imagine what would have happened if those planes had gone down. For the Prime Minister, who was at the time making money betting against the country during the financial crisis, that's what he was doing when I was acting on national security, to now say that somehow national security is safer in his hands is insulting and it's childish.
OK, thank you.
He didn't answer the point about Rayner, though.
Well, I'd have rather had my job than work for extremists like Abu Qatada and Hizb ut-Tahrir.
The Crown Prosecution Service is an extremist organisation.
No, Abu Qatada and Hizb ut-Tahrir were who you work for as well, so people can Google that and have a look. But there's a clear choice.
Desperate.
I'm investing more in our country's defence, up to 2.5% of GDP.
OK.
You are not doing that.
OK.
So how can you tell people you will
Starmer looking a bit frustrated here, a bit touchy.
More in our country's
Thank you.
security?
We've explored both of those positions. I'm just going to draw a breath
Dropping
there.
ad-libs.
Just once again, we've got a quick-fire question for you from Stephen from West Sussex, who sent us a question and asked, just very quickly, a very brief answer from both of you. Would convicted criminal Donald Trump be someone you, as Prime Minister, would want a special relationship with? Keir Starmer.
The framing on that.
If he's elected President of the US, then we will deal with him. It's up to the people in the US to decide who they want as their president. And the special
even if he's a criminal.
The special relationship transcends whoever fills the post of Prime Minister and President, because it's such an important, strong relationship.
Thank you. Rishi Sunak.
Yes, because having a strong relationship with our closest partner and ally in the United States is critical for keeping everyone in our country safe.
I will associate with the criminal. Thanks, guys.
Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer. We're going to go on to another question now, and this one is on the very pressing issue on climate change, and we're going to go to Claire from South London. Hi, Claire.
Thank you. The world is facing a climate catastrophe now. Both of you have broken promises on the environment. What are you doing to put climate at the very centre of your policies?
Thank you very much, Rishi Sunak.
Well, Claire, I have 2 young...
Yeah, she's doing pretty bad.
This is what they talk to me about more than anything else. And of course, we're going to tackle climate change and get to net zero. This election is about how we do it. And I don't think that British people should solve a global problem all by themselves, which is why I'm also prioritising our country's energy security and your bills. We've heard a lot about the cost of living challenges today. So I have made some decisions, bold decisions, that will mean that we can save all of
they're
you
spending
thousands
less
of pounds,
as a percentage of GDP than New Labour did on defence.
Energy security. The contrast is clear at this election, because Keir Starmer will reverse all of the changes I've made. That's going to cost everyone and you thousands of pounds, and make our country less energy secure by banning North Sea energy. And that, I don't think, is a right course for our country.
Thank you, Keir Starmer.
This £2,000 he keeps saying it's going to cost is absolute garbage. We won't go into the details of it. But Claire, let me address...
I think he should have gone into the details of it.
Because this is really important. A transition is coming that's very important when it comes, for example, to energy, a transition to renewables. I don't think we should just see that as a challenge. It's a huge opportunity, because if we go to renewable energy, that means cheaper bills. Renewables are cheaper, not just for the short term, but for the long term. It gives us energy security, so it means that Putin can't put his boot on our throat, and the result you've all been feeling for the last 2 years. But it also gives us the next generation of jobs. Other countries have realised renewables is the future. They're in the race. I want the UK to be in the race. I want us to win the race. When it comes to hydrogen, offshore wind, solar, nuclear, the question I ask is, why
Thank you very much. That's 45 seconds, Keir Starmer. I'm going to try and stick to the rules if we can. There's a very specific point that Claire makes in her question. Both of you have broken your promises on the environment. Will you acknowledge that, Rishi Sunak?
It's a good question.
We're going to stick to the targets we've put in place, but we're going to do it in a way that saves you all money. I'm not going to impose thousands of pounds of costs on you to arbitrarily rip out your boiler, change your car, convert your home. When we've been talking about the cost of living challenges earlier in this debate, I don't think adding thousands of pounds of cost to you is the right thing. Now, Keir Starmer is going to reverse those changes that I made. Okay, so everyone is facing thousands of pounds of higher bills. That is the choice at this election.
Let Keir Starmer respond to that and address the issue of broken promises. Well, please respond directly to what...
It's hard to respond because he's making it up as he goes along. But let me do the best that I can, because the promise I made was clean power by 2030. It's one of my 5 missions, Claire, one of the most important things that I want an incoming Labour government with a driving sense of purpose.
He's going to lie to her face.
Clean power by 2030. That's the promise I've made. That's the promise I'll keep. It'll be in our manifesto. It'll be fully costed and fully funded. But the Prime Minister is slowing down on
Nothing about his broken
climate
promise.
change. The problem with that is not only is that inconsistent with our obligations, it will cost more in the long run.
OK, let
Rishi Sunak respond to that. The sand stuff.
She's doing, you're right, she's doing a really bad job.
I'm going to reverse the changes I made. To install a heat pump now, if you don't need to, costs about £7,000 or £10,000. To convert your home, again, if you're in a terraced house in Darlington, £10,000. Changing your car sooner than America, Canada, Sweden, France, Germany, as he wants you to do. Thousands of pounds.
OK, let's
There's a
Keir
simple
Starmer
choice
respond
at this election.
Thank you.
If you think Labour are going to win, start saving.
Let Keir Starmer respond to those specific points.
Damn, the audience are backing him.
The company that the Prime Minister's been using to try and trail out these figures has done some analysis, which is actually published today, Prime Minister. You obviously haven't seen it. What they say, this is the company he's relying on, is that will cost more, the 2030 plan, if you're with the Prime Minister than with a Labour government. And that's been public. I don't know whether you've been too busy or you perhaps haven't seen it, but the very company that he relies on to trot out these false figures is actually saying it's more expensive with the Conservatives than with Labour. Now, I would like him just to answer that.
Rishi Sunak,
anyone can go online when they get home. Go and see how much it will cost to convert your home. Go and see how much it will cost to install the heat pump. Go and see how much it will cost to change your car. Those are all the things that he's going to force you to do sooner than is necessary. You can go and see tonight the thousands of pounds that's going to cost you. I said it before.
Nothing on the 28 billion.
He is going to put up your taxes.
Thank you.
Put up your
They should have spoken about the 28 billion. That's what I think the question was about.
Very briefly to Claire's question. She's talking about a climate catastrophe now. What are you doing to put climate at the very centre of your policies? Very briefly.
I want to set up Great British Energy. This is a publicly owned company that will generate energy.
Hold up, you said it's an investment group before.
Investment alongside
an investment vehicle.
It'll be owned by the taxpayer, making money for the taxpayer, and drive us to renewables so that we can have lower bills, secure energy, and the jobs of the future. I also think that we should insulate our houses because I think people are paying far too much in their bills. And that was a project that was started 10 years ago and cancelled under the Conservatives when they said cut the green crap. We've lost 10 years. I'd get on with it and get your bills down because people are fed up with energy bills that have gone through the roof.
I'm so mad I can't pause this. I'm actually so annoyed about this.
A very important question from Miles from Ilford for both of you. Now, hey, Miles.
Hi, Miles.
Like many young people, I completed my final years of sixth form under COVID restrictions, started university under them, and I've had to deal with a cost of living crisis, a housing crisis, and an unstable world. What future can you offer my generation, and when will we become your priority?
Gen Zs, let's go.
Thank you very much
great question.
Indeed.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Well, Miles, what I think is really important is that you have the further education opportunities that you need, whether that's university or technical skills. I think either are perfectly, they're equivalent, they're really important. My dad was a toolmaker, so he went down the skills route. I was the first, as it happens in my family, to go to university.
Wouldn't his mum need to go to university to become a nurse?
We would ensure that those jobs are there for you, for the future, that you have the opportunity to get on. We'll build the houses so you don't have to be, 30-something, 35, 36 before you own a house under this government. But what I won't be doing is sending you on national service, some sort of teenage dad's army, which would be what the Prime Minister would say. Forget going on to university. He wants to send you off to do national service.
Thank you very much, Keir Starmer. Rishi Sunak.
You know, we have an enormous amount to be proud of as a country, but we do need to do more to make sure our young people, like you, Miles, get the opportunities that they deserve. So that's why we will introduce a modern form of national service. And I think it's going to be transformational for young people in our country, giving them the skills and opportunities they need to succeed in life, fostering a culture of service in our society, bringing it together, but also strengthening our resilience and security for the future. And I think it is going to be something that's incredibly positive. But beyond that, I want you to have financial security. So when you get that job, when you save for that house, we make it easier, which is why I want to keep cutting your taxes so you can keep more of your money, build for a deposit for that first house, and not saddle you with £2,000 of higher taxes.
They need to really go back to the audience members for these questions.
Keir Starmer called the national service proposals a teenage dad's army. What would you say to that, Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, I think
Tell him why you don't think it's that.
Yeah, whatever you might think of it, it is an idea that's transformational for our society.
Well, the army don't like it.
But
they say
Keir Starmer, all he can do is sneer at it. Sneer at it because you don't have any ideas for the future. You don't have anything that's bold, that's going to transform our country for the better. And in fact, everywhere I've been, since I've made the announcement, I've had people talking to me about how they think it will be wonderful for their children, how they think it will change our country for the better, and it's an example of the bold action that I'm prepared to take to do things differently to deliver a more secure future. You don't have big ideas like that.
They've been in power for 14 years. And after 14 years, with a few weeks to go before the election, they come out with this desperate idea. If it's such a brilliant idea, why for 14 years has your government not lifted a finger to do it? It's a desperate attempt. Now the election's being called to get some attention to put something on the table. The other thing I would say is this. It is very important, Miles, is that the money the Prime Minister says he's going to use for this national service, he's going to take away from levelling up. Remember that promise in 2019, we're going to level up? When I was going to use the money for national service and the army say, and the military say, this isn't going to help us because we don't have the wherewithal to train people and it'll take away from our own budget.
Rishi Sunak to respond
it's not thought through, it's not sensible, it's desperate.
Could you respond very specifically on those points?
Actually, having spoken to lots of people from the armed forces, they're very supportive.
No, they're not. No, they're not. You're lying again, bro.
Them over time to attract people into the armed forces. And actually, the money that we spend on levelling up is partly spent on spreading skills and opportunities for young people. And I think this is the best way to do it. But again, you've had 14 years with nothing to do but think about the future.
Hey, it's David McGuinness.
But you have nothing to say about it, and all you can do is talk about the past. And it's clear, there are no big ideas here. If we want to transform our country for the better and deliver a secure future, you've got to have leaders who are prepared to do big, bold things.
Rishi Sunak saying you're stuck in the past, Keir Starmer.
On the one hand, he says these are all the big ideas that Keir Starmer's coming up with and they'll cost a fortune. Then he says he hasn't got any big ideas. I do appreciate why he doesn't want to talk about the last 14 years. He's ashamed of the last 14 years. He's not said tonight in this debate one thing saying, this is our proud record, vote for me because we've got a great record. He can't say that. He can't say vote for Conservatives because we've got great leaders, burnt through 5 Prime Ministers. So all he can do is say, please look at the future. Please don't look at what we've done in the last 14 years. We cannot have 5 more years of this. Got to draw a line, we've got to turn a page and start
Thank you very much.
Labour.
Yeah, I mean...
Miles is listening very patiently to all of this, and I want to root this in his question. Whatever
just go back to him.
On that issue may have been between the...
Just go back to the geezer. He's right there.
The most common living arrangement for 18 to 34-year-olds is living with their parents. Do their young need to change their expectations of home ownership now?
Get lost.
Do we have to be realistic about this? The young people of this country deserve some honesty. Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, it is too hard to own your own home, and I want everyone to feel what I experienced when I got the keys to my first flat, because it's a very special feeling, and we need to make it easier. And that's why we've delivered 1 million homes in this Parliament, and we'll keep building homes in the right place, but not concreting over the countryside as Labour would do. But crucially, we need to make it easy for you to save for that deposit. And that's why I want your hard work to be rewarded. I don't think we should be taxing you more, because that's just going to make it even harder for you to get on the property ladder.
Thank you. Keir Starmer, on this specific point.
I think what you raise is really important, because for young people, the dream of home ownership has all but gone. The average age for owning a home now, Miles, is late 30s. That's shocking, because I know what your own roof over your head means for an individual. It meant the world to me when I was growing up. So we will build 1.5 million homes. Picking a number requires a plan. And if those homes are going to be built, we're going to have to change the planning laws to make sure we can get on with it. We're going to have to make sure our mayors and combined authorities have the powers they need to put the homes in the places. And we need to make sure the amenities are there, the schools, the health clubs, etc., to support those homes. So we've got a clear plan to deliver on the homes that will make sure, Miles, that you get that chance.
Thank you very
much. I've not seen said plan.
Far earlier than you do under this failed government.
All right, thank you very much
a good
indeed.
answer,
There was so much that
was
in the question from Miles. Thank you very much indeed for that. And we're just going to come now to a final quick-fire question. It's been a pretty serious evening in terms of what we've discussed so far. Just to both of you, apparently there is another big contest on this summer. For many, it's the biggest contest.
Oh, the Euros.
Is,
no one cares.
The Euros. We know you're both football fans.
Oh, my God. This is so
dumb. You are
dumb.
not the only leaders under pressure to win and sometimes accused of not being exciting enough. So here, slightly with my tongue in cheek, if you'll forgive me, both of you, is a question that we've literally just had in from Gareth, who's on his way to Germany. What is the best leadership approach? Play it safe or take some risks and go for the win?
This is so
what
dumb.
What be your leadership style?
Honestly, this is...
Rishi Sunak, quickly.
Well, not to give advice to Gareth Southgate, who, when I met him, we did discuss who had the worst job in Britain in terms of other people giving you their opinions. But I say you need to have a clear plan and you need to take bold action because you don't do anything without those things.
Thank you very much, Rishi Sunak. Keir Starmer, briefly.
Game plan, good squad, and he's got both of those. I really think England are going to do really well this year. He's got a fantastic team, and I'm really...
Be radical or do you play it safe?
Sorry? You need a strategy for winning, so it depends who you're playing, what the issue is. That's what Gareth does. He's very, very good at this, and he's built a squad. And just like I've got a brilliant Senate cabinet.
OK, thank you very much, gentlemen, for both of those answers on the...
I could cry, bruv. I could, honestly... What was the point of that? What was the point of that? That was so dumb. That was absolute filler. OK, sorry.
Gimmicks or unfunded promises that Rishi Sunak does. I don't pretend there's a magic wand that will fix everything overnight. Instead, I offer a practical, common-sense plan to change Britain. This election is about who our country works for. The simple, patriotic belief that Britain can be better and must be better. Imagine how you would feel waking up on July the 5th to 5 more years of the Conservatives. 5 more years of decline and division. The arsonists handed back the matches. Now imagine turning the page with a Labour government that rolls up its sleeves and gets on with the job, that puts the country back in your service. The choice at this election is clear. More chaos with the Conservatives or the chance to rebuild Britain with a changed Labour Party?
Thank you. Keir Starmer.
No policy substance, really.
Either Keir Starmer or I will be your Prime Minister, and a vote for anyone else makes it more likely that it will be him. Agree or disagree with me, you know what I stand for. I'll always have your back, as I did with furlough. But with Keir Starmer, apart from higher taxes, you don't know what you'd get, and neither does he. And we've heard a lot about change from him, but change to what?
That's true.
Keir Starmer is asking you to hand him a blank cheque when he hasn't said what he'll buy with it or how much it's going to cost you.
Well, it's a blank cheque.
In uncertain times, we simply cannot afford an uncertain Prime Minister. If you don't know what you're going to get with Labour, don't vote for it. On the 4th of July, choose lower immigration, lower taxes and protected pensions. Choose a secure future with the Conservatives.
Thank you very much indeed.
That smile was so forced.
And Keir Starmer.
That smile was so forced.
That's it. Quite a night. We've come to the end
of
our...
She was, honestly, that was, she just... The hosting was good initially, and it got so bad. So bad, guy. I've lost my mind. God damn, that was awful. What was she doing? Oh, I hope the BBC one goes better, because god damn, that was something. That was something, guys. Like, Bennett, I disagree with you. I don't think Sunak lost. I don't think he really lost. I think it's pretty close. I would say I think it's kind of a draw. I'll be real. Julie Etchingham. Let me see. Did she go to private school? Because I swear to God, like that's the only way you could get. Honestly, she's so bad. That was awful. That she didn't make them answer the questions. It was just. Honestly, I'm just kind of flabbergasted, honestly. School became a comprehensive school, so that's let's see, that would be a free school, I think. That was some nonsense right there, guys. I'm kind of shocked, a little bit shocked, because it was that bad. It was that bad. I'm a bit taken aback, really. But yeah, no, Sunak's thing kind of reminds me of this clip from Rubio.
And destroying the credit rating of his state. But I would add this: let's dispel with this fiction that Barack.
This is the 2K onto taxes.
Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is trying to change this country. He wants America to become more like the rest of the world. We don't want to be like the rest of the world. We want to be the United States of America. And when I'm elected president, this will become, once again, the single greatest nation in the history of the world, not the disaster Barack Obama has imposed.
Just vote how you want, guys. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not even sure how I'm going to vote. Just vote how you want to. Don't let people vote shame you, call you Tory enablers or whatever. Just vote how you want.
Upon us.
You see, everybody, I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information. And
this is my favorite clip. This is my favorite politics clip. Or this is my top 5.
And then the memorized 25-second speech that is exactly what his advisors gave him. See, Marco, the thing is this. When you're president of the United States, when you're a governor of a state, the memorized 30...
This stuff's not that important.
No, they expect you to get history hits you. None of that stuff happens on the floor of the United States Senate. It's a fine job. I'm glad you ran for it, but it does not prepare you for president of the United States.
Chris, your state got hit by a massive snowstorm 2 weeks ago. You didn't even want to go back. They had to shame you into going back. And then you stayed there for 36 hours, and then you left and came back to campaign. Those are the facts. Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't...
There is.
Know what he's doing is just not
true.
There it is. He knows exactly what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason why this campaign...
You know what the shame is, Marco? The shame is that you would actually criticize somebody for showing up to work, plowing the streets, getting the trains run back on time, when you've never been responsible for that in your entire life.
Okay. He didn't want to go back.
And the fact is...
Go and see the cost of global warming, sewage and rivers.
I went back, it got done, and here's
you didn't want to go back.
I went back. Oh, so wait a second. Is now one of the skills you get as a United States Senator ESP also?
Chris, everybody, you said you weren't going to go back.
The fact is, Marco...
He told everyone he wasn't going to go back, and they had to shame him into going back.
Marco, because...
And then when he decided to go back, he criticized the young lady, saying, what am I supposed to do, go back with a mop?
By the way...
Clean up?
This is honestly... I miss this era of politics. This was a fun era of politics. Damn, Trump was way ahead of everyone else, to be fair, during these contests as well. But this was, honestly, this right here is such a good era. Mithril member for 8 months. Thanks, Mithril. Really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, and I probably should be stepping off. I think that's a renewal of membership. Thank you so much for that, and the super chat. Yeah, no, it wasn't the best debate, but to be fair, these two are boring as hell. I think the one on Friday... The one on Question Time and there's one on Friday should be a lot better. And so I'll try and stream those as well because I've got some time this week. But anyways, if you guys watch this back, let me know. I need to find out how to get video on this because everyone else seems to have video apart from me. I think it's because they use a different streaming software to me, which is annoying. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Like, comment, share, all of that kind of good stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, guys, we're smoking the pack. Good night, all.